Well, thank you very much, Danny. It's great what you're doing. Appreciate it. Is providing awareness to things that a lot of people aren't thinking about or they should be thinking about. So anyways, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And I think Danny's doing a wonderful job in taking these goals, combining it with a plan so they're not just wishes, so that we can actually accomplish something with it. I told Danny a story the other day about a kid and his mom were having breakfast. And there's a great big commotion in the chicken coop. And Ma says to the kid, well, it has to be Johnny, right? Can't be anyone else but Johnny. It has to be Johnny. He says, Johnny, go out there and see what's going on. And so Johnny runs out to the chicken coop, and his commotion carries on. And finally it stops, and he comes out. And he's got a fox in his hands. And the fox is snapping and writhing. And Johnny's just proud of himself. Look, Ma, I got it. And the fox is almost getting out of his hands, not quite. And the realization comes that he doesn't have enough strength to quite finish the job, and that fox is going to get away on him. And this look of horror comes on his face. And Ma says, Johnny, what's wrong? He goes, Ma, please help me let go. So let's make sure we have a plan. So following here are some principles of an organization that you may or may not recognize. A robust civil society made up of free individuals, strong families, and voluntary associations. These are principles, goals of this organization. Freedom of speech, worship, and assembly. Affirming the family is the building block of society and the means by which citizens pass on their values, beliefs, and ensure that families are protected from the intrusion of government. I don't know if some of you are trying to figure out who this is, or you probably know already. Value for economic freedom in a market economy which encourages creation of wealth through free enterprise, protection of the right to own, enjoy, and exchange property. Limited government, low levels of taxation, and help to generate economic growth while allowing Albertans, well, there's a key there, to enjoy the fruit of their own labor. Fiscal responsibility, including balanced budget, debt reduction, and respect for taxpayers' money. Protecting public safety as a primary responsibility of government. And control spending and dramatically reduce the size of government and encourage municipal governments to do the same. But who is that? Who is that? It's the UCP. And that progression from principles, ideals, to what's happening is frustrating, I think, all of us. For sure, conservative-minded people, but it's frustrating all of us. And just over a week ago, I had enough, and I handed my letter of resignation into the local UCP board. And I'll just read a bit of the letter I wrote to them. And it says, I have struggled with putting words together to express what is on my mind over the last months. What has started as an inkling of doubt has now come to a situation where remaining a member of the Tabor-Warner CA board has become an untenable situation. That inkling of doubt began on May 8th, 2018, when the party leader said, I hold the pen, in a press scrum. That was right after that first meeting, the first big meeting there. That statement was a sharp departure from the founding principles by which the UCP was formed through joining the Wild Rose and PC parties. At the time, it was a notable statement which was contradictory to the notion of grassroots that was easy to dismiss as pure phraseology. However, as time moved on, that it has become apparent that who holds the pen in many aspects of the government of Alberta. That iron fist grip on the pen would not be nearly as offensive if the principles by which the party had been founded were being adhered to. Simply, those principles are being ignored at best and aggressively violated at worst. One does not need to look far to see examples prohibiting families from gathering, arresting young people for playing hockey. We've mentioned a bunch of these already today, preventing children from enjoying recreation with their friends, the jailing of a pastor for acting on his calling to serve his God, maintaining large barriers to obtain commercial driver's licenses, centralizing emergency dispatch. We can go on and on and on. There's many, many examples. The course that the party has taken is completely contradictory to its founding principles, principles that are admirable and that should be adhered to with vigor. In fact, it is expected, and that was passed in the same document where those principles are, it is expected that members of the party will support the principles of the UCP. And these principles should be more than just aspirational. They should be ingrained in the culture and the actions of the party and the government and the government that party forms, if it is fortunate enough to gain the confidence of the electorate. The current state of affairs is sad. What the party is professing and what it is doing are contradictory as the regulations that the government is imposing on the population. So as an individual, I still believe in the stated principles of the UCP, that they are to be much more than aspirational. Unfortunately, the party has left these principles behind. And as a result, I feel I have no alternative but to leave the board for the time being. And there's still some board members here actually in the room, and I think there are many good people on the local board, and I wish them all the best to continue in their efforts to make our province a better place. We'll go on to the next one here, and I've read some Seem Tell. I don't know how many of you are familiar with him. He wrote The Black Swan, Anti-Fragile, Fooled by Randomness. And this is just I have a couple of things from a paper. It's an article that he wrote with regards, it's called Political Principia, Political Principles. And maybe this highlights a little bit of the difference or what's going on, and the real difference in politics, and John Robson kind of mentioned this a little bit, right or left, but the real difference isn't right or left. It's Greek or Roman, putting theory above practice or putting practice above theory. And that kind of clicked with me here just the last couple of months. One other thing in that paper that he brings forward, and I think it's kind of important to think this way a little bit, is where you are in the political spectrum doesn't need to be static on all scales. You can be a libertarian on the federal level and a communist in the family level, and that isn't incongruent. And so, Maxine's sitting right in front of me here, and so I have to applaud him for being in a place where, it makes sense, at least in my head, it makes sense. And then on the family level, well, we pool our resources. We work together for a common goal. We don't expect things from people that they can't provide, and we provide for those that aren't able to provide for themselves. We do that on that small scale. And if we kind of follow this principle through a little bit, we start to realize that when you get more intrusive, there has to be more direct influence to whoever is the governing body. And as we get further away, there's less influence. And that's why we have to change these scales a little bit, I think. So in the Canadian system, and we have 3 levels of government: the federal, the provincial, and the municipal governments. And they have defined areas of responsibility. What I notice is that there is quite often an encroachment, a violation of those areas of responsibility. But it only goes one way. I'm thinking really hard where it goes the other way, and I can't. It always goes one way. And I think that's part of the frustration that we're talking about here today, is Ottawa encroaching on Alberta, Edmonton encroaching on the municipality, on the family, on our church organizations. The problem isn't the other way. So what I'm proposing for a question here is that the division of responsibilities for various, you want to advance? The division of responsibilities for the various levels of government is to be respected. And any assumption of authority or power by a higher level of government must be limited in scope, be temporary, and be reversible. Agree or disagree?
Thank you, Brian.